This is Trophy Gold, A Heart Hums in Darkness, Part 2. Let's do a little bit of recapping. Your treasure hunters had arrived at the village of Wellslode in order to just figure out what's going on there. Fort Durin is recently overwhelmed by refugees from Wellslode. The refugees from Wellslode say that Wellslode was overrun by bees. And so that's why they're in Fort Durin. And the governor of Fort Durin, or whoever hired you, some apparatchik in Fort Durin, just wants to know what's going on in Wellslode. And so they're paying you to go make a report, to go find out and make a report. And you also have a remit to keep any scavenge treasure that you find while you're in Wellslode. Basically, Fort Durin is commandeering all of Wellslode's treasure, whether the people of Wellslode want that or not. And so you arrived at the sort of trading post of Wellslode. Wellslode, of course, as we described last time, is actually a subterranean city. But they do have a surface level trading post where they would meet with other communities. And so you arrived there, and the TLDR version of what happened is you discovered that the bees, which are presumably somewhere down in Wellslode, the bees have figured out how to create mannequins. And there were wax mannequins. They're kind of dumb. They don't really know how to behave, but they're very good at impersonating people in a pinch. But these wax mannequins are roaming around. And you also, the very last thing we saw was you rescued a, oh no, I have to say, James just put, can we call them wax similes? No, we cannot. So you also rescued a man from the sort of basement of the apothecary shop. Now, we kind of ended on a little cliffhanger, which we're going to pick up with when we start play. But I do want to check in with the characters real briefly. I like to do a little recap of just the sort of like upper character block. And so currently right now, Sybil has 3 burdens, no gold, although you might have some treasures that are worth gold, but no coinage gold. You have 3 hunt tokens, though, and your ruin is at 3. Revel has 3 burdens, 2 gold, no hunt tokens, and your ruin is at 3. Let's see what else. Obeha has 4 burdens, 2 hunt tokens, and 3 ruin. Obeha also has a few little treasures. And then Inda has 3 burdens, 1 hunt token, and 4 ruin currently. And so I'll remind you all that your goal is to acquire enough treasure to meet and hopefully exceed your burdens before you leave the incursion. You have to, or your character has to retire if you don't. One little sort of housekeeping note is whenever you find like a sack of silver or coinage, we note that, or jewels, we note that as gold in your little gold tracker. But whenever you find like a treasure that's worth money, you list that in your found equipment. And you can make a note that it's worth, I told you it's worth a certain amount, but it doesn't go in your little gold counter. So that's one thing to be aware of. Also conditions. Revel has stung, which we saw the effects of kind of there towards the end. Lots of like very violent sort of allergic reaction to the bee venom. Obeha has frog form, which I think that's an old condition, right, Obeha?
Yeah, it's a condition that I'm not going to get rid of.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So those are the conditions that are floating around right now. And we also had a really interesting conversation between Revel and Obeha about parenthood, which I thought was intriguing. And I have a feeling we're going to be following up on that a bit. Any questions or anything else before we continue? Okay. Then I'll remind you of your set goal. This set, which is called Who Goes There, which now probably makes a lot more sense. The set goal is to find an entrance into Wellslode's underground city spaces. But we pick up with this man extending his hand to Inda, I think. I can't remember who exactly it was, but they say, the man says, "My name's Yulia. What's yours?" And assuming that some of you give him a shocked look like you did last week on the camera, he says, "I'm just kidding."
Oh,
He's like, "That's just a joke. I hear them repeat that all the time." He's like, "No, my name is Nil. Hi." And he goes to extend his hand to you all.
I think, young man, we're going to keep you at arm's length for now because this is all highly suspicious, and this hole is highly suspicious. And I'm more interested in what's in the hole that you were using to feed yourself. So excuse me while I pass you on to my associates. And she starts like looking down into the hole.
He says, while you're doing that, he says, I gather that you're all looking for a way into Wellslode. I assume that's why you're here. I can't imagine you're trying to scavenge these pretty well looted shops here at the trading post, and there's no other reason to be here. I might know a way in. The Wellslodians did block off many of the what are they called? The flues or the yeah, they did, or the bellows, I guess.
yeah.
Flues or bellows? Let me look. Can't remember.
I think the bellows are the thing that pushes the air, and the
Yeah,
flue
yeah.
is the actual like
Right.
compartment it goes
That's
through.
right. Yeah. They did seal up a lot of the bellows entrances to the city on their way out. I know that for a fact. But I do know a way in, and I can help you. Since you've helped me.
Rather than you starving to death in a basement.
He says, "Well, yes, that is true. But there might be more to the story than that."
Payao motions to like, and
If I show you this secret way into Wellslode, you have to promise me something.
Let's hear the promise before we agree.
Wise, a shrewd negotiator among you. And he looks at Inda kind of sideways. And he says, "In truth, I have an old colleague down there who I have been trying to reunite with for some time. She's a lot, if I'm being honest, but I do need to be reunited with her. Perhaps you could help me. At least we could help each other. I can help you figure out what's going on down there. We can find treasure together. It'll be great."
That sounds reasonable to me.
if we reunite you, is there any other particular terms? Because I'd rather not get stabbed in the back if you don't like what you see.
He says, "Well, if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't relish the thought of going down into Wellslode by myself, and so your arrival here is actually rather fortuitous. Trust me, we would only be a help to each other. Apart from my little joke earlier, there's absolutely nothing duplicitous about my nature, I assure you."
Well, you're certainly very resilient, Inda says, and points at the numbing herbs and looks meaningfully at the other three, and says, "Well, what have you got to trade? You know, trade a principle, goods in exchange for services. What's in it for us? I mean, we just have to say to that there's bees here, and we know that there's bees. Where's the treasure?"
All I have to offer is just the way into Wellslode. Take it or leave it. Otherwise, you can keep roaming around and dealing with wax mannequins and whatever else is left over. Topside.
I say fine, but he walks first.
Good. Great.
Hmm.
Well, follow me.
Mhm.
And he actually goes back down into the basement.
I knew it. I knew there was a way down there. I knew we had to open that thing.
Do you follow him?
Yes.
Yeah. Revel will go right. We'll go second after Nil.
When you get down to the basement, the light is not great, but he takes you. If one of you has a lamp, does anybody have a lamp or a torch or something?
I
Inda
have
has
candles.
And Inda
Yeah.
has torches, which she'll grudgingly write down in her ledger to defray against the cost of the
Defray.
expedition.
Yeah.
um,
Well, we do have that lamplighter fungus.
Mhm.
he
Hey,
says
Does that
that
give off enough light? Like if you open the tin, does that give off enough light to just
he
sort
says
of...
lamplight fungus is not exactly what I need. That allows one to see in the dark. I need the heat. A torch would be perfect.
Please sign this script to prove that you've received this torch for my
He just takes the
reimbursement.
torch and he looks at the rest of you and he's like, how do you deal with that every day? And he moves the torch over. He takes you, kind of goes around there's like a kind of a wall of shelves, and he kind of goes around that on the other side of it. It kind of bisects the room and he goes around to the other side of it. And there's a spot on the wall that is slightly discolored from the rest of it. It's kind of a yellowy amber color, whereas the wall is just a sort of packed earth. And he holds the torch up to this patch and it begins to melt. He says it seems the bees themselves might have plugged this part and the wax is kind of dribbling off. He says it's going to be a minute, but I imagine this is going to take us right into the heart of Wellslode.
So you've been down there already, you're saying?
Yes, I came looking for an old colleague of mine, as I said, and I arrived right when things were getting a bit out of hand. And so I ran and I hid down in the basement. I lied about being arrested by the locals.
Yeah, gathered that one.
Well, we're just trying to figure each other out, right? I mean, there has to be a little bit of elasticity when it comes to, well, morals and ethics and expectations among people just meeting each other in a post-apocalyptic bee-soaked hellscape, and he is burning the wax away.
And your first impression that you decided to make was thief? Well, that's neither here nor there. What I'm really, really interested in is what sort of treasure do you expect to be down there? Having been down there already.
He says, well, like I said, I don't have much care or concern for whatever material gains are to be found down in Wellslode, though when I was down there, I did manage to glimpse a few interesting things. I believe this is going to go into a part of the city called the Amber Commons, and in the center of the Amber Commons, they have a great big tree, and the tree, at a glance, appeared to have all sorts of treasures hanging from it. That might be a good first place to stop. And eventually he gets the wax plug melted down and he hands the torch back to you. And he says, as long as the bellows are pumping, torchlight will work perfectly fine down there. As well as, well, they have braziers and things that can be lit if we need to. If the bellows stop for some reason, we will be plunged into darkness, but that's where the lamplight fungus comes in.
We won't suffocate and die, though.
Well,
I'd assume the bellows put air into the underground.
Well, yes, but, and then he kind of says, I suppose if breathing is something that is of primary concern for you, then yes, you probably will have a hard time of it if the bellows stop.
Generally speaking, breathing is useful to living.
He kind of like gives a glance at Obeha, says, breathe lots of oxygen, do you? And
I can hold my breath for a little bit of time.
he says, so, shall we?
Make sure those bellows don't stop.
Yeah, I would be concerned if the bees were plugging every hole in this place. I think bees need to breathe, so I don't, and they're semi-intelligent, so I would think they would avoid plugging the bellows. Unless someone does something stupid, which in a bee hellscape is likely, so.
I'm not worried about the bees plugging up the bellows. There
Mhm.
might be other forces, secret war going on, maybe.
Now that I think about it, as we're making our way down here, maybe we should have plugged up the bellows, killed all the bees, and then made our way down. Yeah.
Nil says, as long as the bellows are pumping, everything should be okay. Maybe we could stop by whatever engineering or maintenance shack that might be around and put in a request that they keep everything in tip-top working order while we're down here plundering their city.
Yeah.
That was a joke. And
Yeah, court jester. We got a real one here.
Yeah. Just a thought. What does make the bellows go?
and just then, as you're sort of crawling, you're all kind of going through this like kind of low tunnel, kind of you have to hunch
Mhm.
over a bit. And that tunnel is kind of gradually going down. And it does eventually open up into the next set, which is called the Amber Commons. This is you're let out into an area that is an underground park. And right now it's largely filled with trash and detritus. There is an underground river and a waterfall that appears to be powering a large water wheel. And in fact, you can hear that churning of the water. And at a glance, you can see that enormous tree that dominates the park's middle. And there's light coming in different spots of the cavern's roof, presumably where the mouths of the bellows meet the cavern ceiling. You have a goal here, which is find a way down deeper. Just keep going down.
I would like to take a nice long look at this tree and see what kind of treasure it might have.
Let's keep going a bit. I'll describe some other things as well. There is that tree that is the sort of central feature. There is also nearby a statue garden, which would be a common sight in a park. There's a person down here who, at the moment of your arrival, is being harassed by some bees. You can see them kind of like he keeps like these bees, like keep these like large kind of dog-sized bees keep crawling up and trying to like carry him away. And he's like, no. And he shushes them off. And they kind of wander off for a minute, but then they come back and they try to pick him up again. He's like, no. And that's going on. And there are other people as well. There's a family nearby, near the tree, having a picnic. You can see them eating and chatting and moving their hands, talking. Nil says, well, not completely abandoned.
Again, wax mannequins.
Yes. Possibly, probably. I'm going to go search for my former colleague. Perhaps we should meet back at the tree in, say, an hour.
Inda barks humorously and says, "Huh, yes, and I'm sure that everything is going to be exactly as you described. Don't you fear, young man. I'm very good at prizing value out of even the most deceptive situations. You toddle along."
He's like, yes, don't worry. I won't be long. I just have to lay some traps for you all and, find some hooligans to lie in wait to rob you of all your goods. About an hour. And he goes off.
Can I get my goat to follow him?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be tracked by goat,
I always forget about the goat.
whose name was Gerald, I believe.
Oh, Gerald the
Mhm.
goat. Yes,
Gerald the
good.
goat.
How do you get Gerald the goat to follow him?
Well, I've trained Gerald very well. He does two things. He helps prune down like overrun weed beds, and also he follows people for me.
What does he do then? He can't report back, presumably.
Well, it's a creepy thing. When you're walking down
It's
an
just-
abandoned road and you can hear a goat following you. That's creepy.
So it's purely to like intimidate the followed person.
Yes.
It has no other purpose.
Yes.
Very good.
Every now and then you can hear him chewing. Very disturbing.
It's a goat. Like I imagine like Sybil, like you got trained this goat to do this by just placing like goat food on this other person.
Well, I had like plans for what I would get the goat to do. Once I trained it to follow people, but it's not a smart enough goat. It never really got that far. So
Okay, so he goes off and Joel goes off as well. And I pointed out a few things here for you to look into, or you can just, you can go search wherever and however you want to do. Let's just check and see what everybody wants to do. Then we'll figure out scenes. Rebel.
My job in this crew is to, look for danger. So the family having a picnic, probably assume them to be mannequins, but I'm more looking for ambushes. I think I'll go look through the statue garden to see if there are any other treasure looters in particular that we might not want to cross paths with.
That sounds good. Inda.
Inda is assuming that because Neil mentioned the tree, that the tree is somehow a trap, and also that everything is bees. Therefore, she's going to go look for less obvious left bits of wealth, things of value potentially for trade.
But where specifically and how?
Maybe if there's some abandoned dwellings or anything that's not just things around the courtyard that are not the kind of more obvious sort of features of it that
Yeah, I think there probably are some like little lean-to houses or dwellings that kind of are maybe on the perimeter of the park. That makes sense. Sybil?
I think Sybil's job in this group is to just keep moving forward, no distractions, just get that gold. And so I'm going for that tree.
Sounds good. And Obeha?
I'm gonna interact with the guy who's being harassed by dog bees.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Let's start with Statue Garden. The Statue Garden is there are carved stone human figures that are at this point standing buried chest high in slopes of garbage and dead bodies, both human and insect. Most interestingly, Revel, well, more interesting than a bunch of dead bodies somehow, you see bees, these like drone bees, these like dog-sized ones that don't have wings. You see them dragging trash and just tossing it into the Statue Garden. They've turned this into like their sort of trash pit, basically. And yeah, so what do you do?
the concept of human, one bee's trash is another man's treasure. Maybe just go a quick cursory look to see if there is anything superficially worth taking, but I do want to, seeing Obeha go towards the more obviously dangerous elements. I don't want to linger here too long and actually kind of start making my way back towards there, but I do want to see if there's anything worth taking really quickly.
Yeah, good. Well, go ahead and make a hunt roll, see if you can find anything.
Sure.
You can always, if you have a token, you can always spend it to just find a treasure straight away too.
I do not have a hunt token because the dice were really cruel to me in my hunt
They
rolls.
were cruel to you last time, yeah.
Oh, hey, there's a 5.
Go ahead and take your token, but you encounter something terrible.
Of course I do.
The encounter something terrible is sort of a timed thing. Basically, you will realize pretty quickly that the more time you spend here in the statue garden, the more the stink of death will begin to hang on you. It's not so bad yet that I'm going to give you a condition, but the more you dig around in these dead bee and human corpses and trash, you're gonna have that on you. Otherwise, you don't see anything of particular value.
Right.
Not at a glance, anyway.
Yeah.
Let's cut over to Sybil and the tree. The bangled tree. It is a giant tree, somehow growing underground. It dominates the center portion of the park, and from its branches dangle scores of bracelets and charms. You can tell pretty quickly that this is this is probably like some sort of like thing that lovers do, they go and they tie their little charms or whatever to the branch to declare their love, that kind of thing. You also can see the water wheel, and the water wheel you can tell now that it's connected to some machinery that operates the bellows. That's how the bellows are operating. What do you do?
Does the water wheel look like it's functioning normally based on what I can see from
Well,
where
the
I am?
the river's flowing, the waterfall's falling, and the wheel's turning.
All right,
The bellows are bellowing. So yeah.
I would like to take some souvenirs from the tree.
Yeah. Make a hunt roll to find something valuable.
We are doing hunt rolls with just one light, right?
Unless
Sorry,
you have
I'm doing
a
regular one, I don't
skill
think
or a piece of equipment that's helping you.
No, not really. Regular. I got a 3.
A 3. That's no token, and you encounter something terrible. Give me a moment here. You will notice that the bees have built a number of hives in the branches as well. And you can see that in some of the upper branches, there are certainly some valuable things. There's a distinct glint of treasure. But there's a chance of accidentally molesting the hives if you go for it.
Well, you know what they say? You miss 100% of the opportunities you don't take. So I'm
Indeed.
going to very, very gracefully climb the tree and find the shiniest thing I can.
Very good. This will be a risk roll to see if you can acquire a treasure from the tree without disturbing the hives. And what's at stake, I'll tell you, is that the hives are disturbed and you might get stung by swarms of bees. Let's talk about your dice. Do you have a skill that would be relevant or helpful here?
I think the most relevant would be perception, but I'm not sure if that's really that applicable.
Describe to me how you'd be using it.
I'd be using it to scan the tree to see which shiny thing I could possibly get to without getting at the bees, like maneuvering between the branches to avoid the beehives to get to the shiny thing.
Okay, I like
want.
that. I'll take it. Yeah, you can have the die there. And James, you can offer the devil's bargain.
No matter what, a face with one eye of a woman emerges from the tree bole and shrieks and vomits a swarm of bees at you.
That's a lot.
I love it. Of course I'm gonna take that.
Very good. Okay, you've got 2 light dice, and I think a dark die is automatic because of the there's just a lot of dangerous things going on here. So go ahead and roll 2 light, 1 dark. That is a 5 dark. You have to stop, and I do think your ruin goes up as well.
It sure does.
It
It's
does.
up to a 4.
I will give you your treasure. You will not disturb the hives. However, I think you might get stung by this screaming bee face in the tree. So let's do that. I'll take the narration. You're doing pretty good. Now we'll come back to it. Let's check in with Inda. So Inda, you're going to these like little lean-to houses, and I think that's a great idea. Getting into them is not too difficult. You can tell that the place was abandoned. In fact, let's paint the scene, everyone. Looking around these little lean-to dwellings, how can we tell that they were abandoned in a hurry?
I think in some cases we can see that people were in the middle of activities, sweeping the porch or having a coffee, and items were just placed down as they were being abandoned.
Some of the more rudimentary lean-tos actually have outright collapsed as they were running out, they bumped one of the supporting beams and it just fell over.
I think one of the lean-tos had a dusty glass window, and it smashed outwards from the inside, and the shards of glass on the floor have like traces of blood on them.
I think there is at least one clothesline with laundry still just hanging off of it, left to dry.
So what's your approach here, Inda?
I think Inda is basically a bit like in the pharmacy, the apothecary. It's going to use improvisation and trading to just look for, the equivalent of where do people keep the money under the bed kind of thing.
I'll take that. Go ahead and roll 2 dice for hunt roll.
Okay, let's do it. Oh, it is a 3. I got a 3, so it is a 3 kind of situation.
It is indeed. You're looking around and maybe you're finding things of interest, if not excessive value, maybe not, but you hear a rumbling from below. The distinct sound of something moving beneath the earth. You feel it first and then you hear it. What do you do?
Just look around and say, this isn't worth it, and run back into the main courtyard and say, everyone, Sybil, everyone, there's something coming, and yes, it's probably bees.
Meanwhile, Obeha, this young man, he's described as a young person and a fool in the text. By the time you arrive, there are a couple of wingless drone bees that these are the big dog-sized ones. They are just like dragging him towards the statue garden. And you'll also see Revel coming up from the statue garden at that point as well. And he kind of looks at you and he says, as he's being dragged away, I thought it would be a very good idea to disguise my scent with the smell of offal and viscera and guts. But now they just think I'm trash. And they're just still dragging him.
Well, at least they're not trying to kill you.
No, they think I'm dead. Why would they try to kill me?
Mm-hmm. How many of like these dog-sized bees are dragging him away?
There's just 2 currently.
I take my staff and I'm going to try to like whack one of them.
Yeah, you can do that. I think that will agitate them enough to where they kind of like turn on you, and you don't smell like garbage.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
I'm getting into combat, aren't I?
yeah, Rebel, you can see that Obeha has struck the first blow against these drone bees. They're not too bad endurance wise. Combined, they're only a 6. So Obeha, how are you vulnerable?
I'm striking a blow without my compatriots nearby.
Yeah, that sounds good. Go ahead and roll a weak point. 6. It's not great.
Oof.
And you have to go around by yourself. If you roll a 6, you'll defeat them. So that's good. You did. You do defeat them. They do hit you unless you mark armor. Give us the combat. What does it look like?
I think I hit one, and it just, the way it is, like, it was not prepared because it was dragging this guy, so it just gets squashed entirely. But the other bee crawling around is a lot faster than I expect because it's the size of a dog. It can run as fast as a dog. And it lunges on me and like grapples me and starts biting, and like as like I'm just like trying to whack it off me, like eventually I just fling it far away, like it hits like a lean-to, and like that one just support just like goes boom, and we got another dead bee.
Indeed. Revel, you can be in the scene here at the end.
I mean, Revel runs up trying to be the big gosh dang hero, and by the time he gets there, it's they're probably already dealt with. It's like, oh well, that's a good solid right side swing you got there.
This young man, he kind of dusting himself off. Kata, go ahead and roll a 6 gold or gold 6. Got 1. He says, "Oh, well, I suppose I should thank you for rescuing me. Well, here, my father taught me you should always do your best to compensate those who put their neck on the lines for you." And he's going through his pockets and says, "Oh, here we are. I have this very, very fine quality compass. Not very helpful down here, but," and he offers it to you, Obeha.
I take it.
It's worth 1
pocket it.
gold. Yeah, it's worth 1 gold. It is very nice. He says, "My name is Orphus the Not Dead." He stinks really badly, Revel, like really bad. But I mean, you just came back from the garbage pit, so you're probably like somewhat inured to the odor. But this is not just lingering garbage pit odor. He also smells very, very bad, and you can see now that he's smeared in like dried blood and guts.
There's a river right over there. You might want to go and just at least like the face bit there.
He's like, "Well, truth be told, it's not such a bad arrangement. I mean, as long as the bees think you're dead, they won't behave in a hostile manner to you. You just have to sort of occasionally dealt with them trying to haul you off. They are a pheromone and scent-based species. These words we're speaking right now means nothing to them. Like, you could just talk all day about your plans, and they won't know what you're doing because of the bees. They don't understand anything. But they can smell treachery. They can smell greed. And I know that because they have been chasing me for some time until I camouflaged myself.
Well, to be fair,
Olfactorily speaking.
To be fair, this is their new home and you're intruding upon it. So I don't think they smell greed. I just think they just smell a stranger.
I couldn't help but notice your friend over there trying to climb that tree. She seems to be doing a very good job avoiding the hives, but unfortunately, the bees have hollowed the tree itself out, and the tree is one massive hive. She should probably get down from there.
Yeah. Everything
Hey,
Is the-
Sybil, you should probably get down from there.
Sybil, at
I
that
don't-
point,
I'm doing great.
Sybil, you will come up across essentially a hole in the tree that does look vaguely face-shaped. Eyes and a mouth kind of stretched. It looks like a mouth screaming. And one of the bellows whoosh, gives a whoosh, and apparently the tree is hollowed out from the top because you hear this whine, this howl, this scream of air coming through the tree. And bees begin flying out of this face-shaped hole and surrounding you. And I'll let you choose. You can get the stung condition, but your ruin increase from earlier won't count. You can take it back down. Or you can fall and not get stung and have the ruin.
Ah, an impossible choice. Is it established in this in this incursion what being stung does to a person?
So far, all we've seen is Revel had a really violent allergic reaction to it.
Yeah.
Conditions generally can add dark dice if they complicate your
Yeah.
rolls.
I'll keep the ruin.
So you fall.
Yeah.
The wail of wind eventually turns into the buzzing of bees as the swarm flies out of the tree, out of the mouth of this tree, and you flail and fall. You land hard, but you're able to scramble away so that the bees don't sting you. Inda is probably coming out of the lean-tos at that point. Revel and Obeya are hollering at you. I assume they're running after you, having just seen you fell out of the tree. And you're
Yeah, I
all...
think I'm like shaking out my clothes and whatever piece of treasure I did manage to grab, I'm holding it up in the air.
You do have
like,
a treasure,
keep it
yes,
out of-
yes. I
Keep
promise
it
you
out
treasure.
of the way of any bees that might be trying to get me.
What did you get? Let's see. You got a silver bracelet that has that is studded with rubies.
That's a gold.
That'd be 2 gold.
Ooh.
See? Risks always pay off.
Orphus the Not Dead says, I happen to know something about, well, camouflage and stealth and going about unnoticed, generally speaking, and the 4 of you are doing a very bad job at it.
That's because I'm not deciding to do it. I can
Yeah.
literally become invisible. I don't.
Oh, look at you.
Yes. These are very strong words coming from someone named Orphus.
Do you really think invisibility is going to help you against a creature that does not use its visual senses to see?
Well, it's not just invisibility. It's removal of all senses. Sound, sight, smell, heat.
Well, that's very impressive. That sounds much better than covering yourself up in bear guts. Well, I'm going to leave you all to it.
You, undead fellow.
Orphis the not dead. Very
Yes.
different.
Who
Well,
might
then-
be undead?
Definitely
lot
not
of-
undead.
A lot of things are a lot of things around here. How long have you been down here?
Oh, and he kind of was like, well, not very long, day or two. I've lost track of time, to be perfectly honest.
And why are you down here?
No, I'm a plunderer. I'm a treasure seeker.
You say that with such pride.
Well, yes. What is there not to be proud of?
Well, treasure seeking is one thing. Plundering.
I
You see, we're
bravely
not-
go
we're
into the
not
places.
plundering.
I bravely go into the places that other people are running away from in order to make my way. That's what you're doing here, right?
Oh.
What are you doing here then?
We have been tasked to find out what is happening in this town to help the people of what's this place called again?
Let me help you out here. Bees are what happened. Lots and lots of bees.
But why here? Did you stop to think of that?
Ooh. Ooh, mystery.
Yes. Well, Hummingwood's presumably a good chunk of it got burned. And now they're here. So it just makes me curious about what else has changed.
At this point, there's a drone bee tugging at Orpheus's leg.
Oh,
So-
look, here's another one. Have fun in the pit.
Well, it's just the one. I can just kick it away. It's when another one joins and it becomes a problem. I'm not dead. And he kicks it.
Well, you should stop smelling like one.
Meanwhile, what is everyone else doing? Your set goal is to find a way deeper down into the city.
I think Inder arrived just at the point he was describing himself as a treasure hunter and barked sarcastically with laughter at him, and then like nodded and smiled when Obeha was asking and saying, "Yes, my direct friend, that's the right question. What's going on here? And why do you smell like a cadaver?" "Well, I think I have something for you," and she'll pull out like a perfume and say, "From the finest perfumiers of the Rose District of Amberit. It'll stop your stench immediately. Finest ingredients from across the blossoming sea, sir, just for you."
It's like, I suppose the bees might think I'm a beautiful meadow of flowers. How is that better than them thinking I'm garbage? I don't want to be pollinated.
It's more of a musky, subtle scent, you see, redolent of oceans and deep woods and mosses, not of flowers. I wouldn't suggest it's such a palate for you, sir.
Well, in that case, they might just think I am a sandy beach.
I don't recall that bees are particularly attracted to sandy beaches, so
Yes, they
maybe
certainly wouldn't
that's-
try to dispose of them, would they?
No, well, I mean that would require one grain of sand at a time, and that's simply ridiculous.
All right then. All right then. A trade. He says,
Well,
"Here," and he pulls out a fancy lyre.
Well, you see, is it commensurate in value? Would you like to start the bidding? Revel, do you wish to enter the bidding? You also smell like a cadaver.
I think I'm gonna pass on this one. You just have your fun.
Well, I mean, we
I will
can-
have
we
you
can-
know, this lyre was responsible for a number of young men and women of much higher station being seduced by a particularly dashing, not dead young man of a much lower station.
You're gonna have to throw in something else. It just looks like an old lyre that's at least
What about a
20 years
story?
old.
Story. as well.
What about your firstborn child? You know, and I start haggling.
Yeah, he's like going back and forth. Meanwhile, Revel, what are you doing? Well, Orpheus is trying to buy this perfume off Inda, while Sybil is dusting herself off, while Obeha is, I don't know, testing out theories of invisibility vis-a-vis bees. What are you up to?
I think now that the hive, the whooshing of bees has passed through the hollow tree, I just want to climb up it enough to get a peek down inside and see if
Ah, very
there's
clever.
light down at the bottom.
Yeah,
if
make
it
a hunt
goes
roll.
down.
Yeah, make a hunt roll.
Would athletics give me a second light die?
I'll take it. Yeah.
Okay.
Climb quickly.
That's a 6.
Very good. Take your token, and yes, it does go in. It does in fact go down deeper.
Oh.
It is hollowed and indeed a tunnel down.
Hey everybody. I think we can get down from here. It might be a little bit of climbing, but it goes down.
Are there still a bunch of bees in there?
I'll take a peek back down.
I
Not
mean,
at
the
the moment.
bees will eventually, be in there again, and presumably there are lots more bees connected to wherever this goes, but it is a way down. Orpheus says, try rubbing guts on yourself. Very good. I saw a goat earlier. Maybe you could go and...
I would like to. Nobody saw Gerald. What are you talking about? He's best at blending it into the background as he walks down the middle of a road. I would like to use a ritual. I have Fountain, which is a forceful spring of water bursts forth from a location you touch. I want to just sort of wash out the inside to make sure that there are no bees when we go in and climb our way down.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Yeah, I like that. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and we'll do that.
Yeah, like it.
Okay. Let's take a quick moment to reorient ourselves. So you have discovered that the tree in the center of the park is hollowed out and actually indeed goes deeper underground. Inda has heard something crawling or digging or moving underground. There is the quartet of picnickers nearby who no one has interacted with yet. And Nil and Goat, or Gerald, have gone off a side path and are no longer visible. Who knows where they are? Let's just check in with everyone and find out what everyone's doing at this point. Sybil? Sybil, what are you
I
doing?
was going to do a ritual to flush out the tree. I think we determined that the tree is going underground.
To make it
And
like
I
a
wanted
safe place to go down. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
That's really good. Assuming that'll take a little bit to prepare. What are you doing?
I'll do it like right before we decide to drop down.
Inda, did you make your deal with Orpheus the Not
Yes.
Dead?
I've acquired the loot, but I've decided, looking at what Sybil's doing, that if we find the right musical accompaniment to the ritual, it should be more effective. Because I'm going to try and improvise to help her with the ritual.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Obeha, what are you doing right now?
I see this tree and like I'm looking in like the little crevices of like where the roots meet the ground, just in case Sybil missed any treasure, and I'm going to spend a hunt token to find a treasure.
Okay, cool. If you spend your token, you find... What do you find? You find a blue glass bottle of Toppy's ink wine, the crystal stopper, still intact.
I think while I'm tuning my loot, I might also spend my token just to run into something.
Yeah. As you're tuning those lyre, as you're tuning the lyre, it Oh, you find a penknife with decorative crystals on the hilt. Looks like it was just dropped somewhere in the grass.
I'll inspect it with my spectacles to see if I can see what grade it is, and nod approvingly.
Indeed, indeed. Revel, what are you doing right now? After you've scoped out the tree.
So everybody seems to be taking it easy. I'm also going to spend a hunt token for 1 treasure, please.
It's like yawning. Once someone starts, everyone has to do it.
I actually would like to spend a hunt token or two. because
I'm paranoid about rolling a 1 on my next hunt roll and losing
Yeah,
everything.
that's a good thing to be paranoid about. You find a walking stick with a scrimshaw image of a skeletal parade on it.
Yeah, since I have 3 hunt tokens and I assume kind of operating around the base of this tree, trying to avoid bees while I prepare my ritual. So if I could take 2 of my 3 hunt tokens and turn them into some gold, that'd be lovely.
I'm going to turn it into a lead, if you don't mind. Gerald comes back. Who knows what is going on with Nil, or if he even followed Nil to begin with. Gerald comes back, and he's got a bone in his mouth. Nothing particularly unusual about that. This is probably standard goat behavior. But this bone looks like it's been tattooed. It's like scrimshaw kind of, but it's ink that's been done on the bone. And Gerald is giving you like a nod, like he's found something. Drops the bone at your feet.
It's very sad that he's the best adventurer of all of us, but I will pick up the bone and I would like to take a look at it. What does this inscription, this tattooing look like?
Do you have any kind of like symbols or religious skill?
I do not.
Does anyone have
Plants.
such skills?
Obeha does.
Obeha, the markings are symbols that are sacred to the outlawed cult of Darawan.
Do you think this is worth something?
To the right people, it has a little bit of variable value.
Great
But-
work, Gerald. I'm going to give him some goat nip.
Yeah, I would avoid bringing this up with any Kingsguard, if you get my meaning.
If you let me put it up for auction, I'll find an idiot to pay more for it, I promise.
The bone
And
itself.
what would your take of that be, Inda?
Oh, 30% is standard.
The bone itself is perhaps of interest or value to very particular collectors. I think the more interesting thing here is that Gerald is trying to lead you somewhere.
Yeah, once I give him his goat nip, which is a plant that I have cultivated specifically for goats as a treat, I would like to put my ritual on hold for a moment. I'm going to let the parts of it sort of stew and percolate, and then I will follow Gerald. I'll kind of glance at anybody who's interested in coming and be like, hey, let's go check it out.
I'll follow Sybil. Don't you find it? I don't know why do I keep coming up into strange cults? Why do I keep running into them? I don't know why. Is it just my fates?
You run into strange cults. I run into, rich people who have been murdered, sometimes by me. It's just one of those things, you call out to the world and it brings you the things that it thinks you need.
Is anyone staying at the tree?
I think Inda might stay at the tree and try and figure out if the presumably wax family have anything of value without, attracting their attention too much.
Yeah, Revel, are you staying at the tree or are you going with Sybil and Oveha?
Revel will stay at the tree. We'll split the party neatly down the half.
Indeed, yeah. The family is nearby the tree, so that's kind of the same as staying at the tree. As you get there, you can see that as you get closer, it's actually a group of rather poorly rendered wax mannequins going through the motions of having a picnic. They're miming eating and drinking, but there's no food or drink passing through. There's a small mannequin that's trying to caper to amuse the others, but it like hasn't really got it down. Its capering is mostly just like falling forward and then picking itself up and then trying to caper and then falling forward again. But they don't seem to be hostile. They don't seem to be reacting poorly to your looking at them or your presence. And they do have some things said about them. What do you do?
I'm going to appraise them, like for see what if there's anything valuable I can try and sort of pocket with, you know, my quick fingers. I think you're muted, Jason.
Oh, sorry. I think that you'd have to get closer. Do you want to just walk right up to them?
Yeah, I'll do it. Go on.
As you get closer, you can see that the small mannequin that is trying to caper around like a child, it keeps falling down because it has 6 little angry wriggling legs in its chest. And they occasionally overbalance it and it falls down and has to get up. It has a bee trapped in its wax chest. What do you do?
I think I might try and ingratiate myself with the bees by letting the bee free.
Okay, so then how do you do that?
I'm going to melt it with my torch on the other side, you know, the opposite side to the bee, so that it's soft enough for the bee to escape.
Yeah, you're doing that. Sybil and Obeha are following Goat. Revel, you can hear a rumbling underground, a distinct rumble. And that rumble is getting closer and closer to the surface of where you're at. What do you do?
Look for shelter. How far away were those houses that Inda was?
You can
Heading
certainly run to them. I think that's fine. It's probably like, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred yards, not too far.
We're gonna put some distance, draw our sword, probably move towards Inda and the family, just so we have at least one other person there to fight. Well, maybe Inda's not the best. We're gonna run for the houses.
Very good. Meanwhile, Sybil and Obeha. Goat leads you to a whole skeleton covered with these ink tattoos. The skeleton disassembled and then sold is worth a gold. But the skeleton is also clutching something, a leather pouch of some sort. What do you do?
I'm going to glance at Obeha, and then I'm going to take the pouch. I want to see what's inside of it.
If you unroll the pouch, you can see that it is a set of tattooing tools, needles and ink. And Obeha, you will notice that this is actually like a sacred set of tattooing tools. It is a tool sacred to the cult of Darawan.
Hmm. It seems as though the cult of Deruan has quite a presence here.
Well, we don't really know much about Wellslodians. Maybe they're cultists.
Or at least that the Kingsguard don't have any presence in Wellslode proper.
I'm gonna pocket these tattooing tools.
What about the skeleton?
I'm taking the skeleton.
While you're disassembling the skeleton, you find Nil standing over your shoulder, and he says, I recognize these symbols. I've seen them before.
Hmm.
This is a clue, I think, to finding my former colleague.
Really now?
No luck with that then.
No. I think we need to go deeper.
Mhm.
How's it going with all of you? This is quite the
Well,
score.
Mhm. Well, we found another person. It's a- absolutely repulsively disgusting person, but another person.
In your time around here, Nil, did you find a person who was very smelly and insists they are not undead?
If you're talking about the person that the bees were trying to throw into the garbage pit, yes, I did see that. The fellow explained his plight to me in some detail, but I wasn't particularly interested, and so I kept going.
I believe we feel very similarly about this person.
Indeed. Revel, nobody else seems to be aware of the trouble that's coming. Inda was for a minute, but now Inda's distracted by Wax. Revel, you can see the drone bees moving to the locus of where the rumbling is coming from underground. They are reacting to it, but they're moving towards it. Inda, you will eventually free a large bee the size of a house cat, and it's just like flailing around wildly pissed. And what do you do once you free it?
Quickly look to see if there are any valuables encased in the wax jester.
Indeed, there is. There is a necklace with 8 gemstones, and the largest is nestled in a silver leaf like a drop of dew.
I'm going to very quickly grab it and turn to Revel and say, well, that was worth the wait, but now we have to get out of here.
Revel's nowhere nearby. Revel's at the lean-tos.
Oh, I was a little bit preoccupied by greed, and she'll run off to join Revel once she sees where he's gone.
I think as you are running, you will see a group of the drone bees have gathered. It's kind of near the tree. It's between you and where Revel is, and Obeha and Sybil are kind of off, in another part of the cave. And there's just a massive burst of earth and bee limbs as an enormous, gigantic furred mammal with squared off hard fingers just kind of bursts through. It has a broad face topped with a ridge of bone. It gives it kind of like a beetle browed sort of appearance. And it has kind of mole-like nostrils as well. And it just bursts out and it just sends bees flying, dirt going everywhere. It just cleaves to the bees like they're nothing. They're trying to like jump on it, and it just like bats them away and tears at them. Inda, it's now crawling towards you. Meanwhile, the mannequin picnic family, they're just going about doing their thing. We're pretending like they're talking, moving invisible food to their mouths, while this enormous digging mammal clump, clump, clump crawls in your direction. Into what do you do?
I am going to quickly sketch a circle on the ground and create a trigger of an illusion when the creature gets close to me of a bee that's the same size of it that will attack it. Then it will think that it's challenging it.
Very good. I think you're not going to be able to do this illusion unless you are able to, unless the creature's distracted in some way because it's bearing right down on top of you. Revel, you might be able to
Okay.
buy into some time.
Yep, that's my job. Let's do it.
What do you
Let's go
do?
to work.
So what do you do?
We are going to oh god, this thing's big. I think we're gonna do the big dumb, hey, look over here, try and make as much noise and visibility as possible while moving laterally away from Inda.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds pretty good. Let's do a risk roll. Amanda, what could go wrong?
I think that the creature will take far too much notice and really zero in on either Rebel or Inda, depending on what seems worse at the moment.
I mean, I think he's already honing in on Inda. I don't think there's.
Yeah, so I suppose turning his attention towards Rebel and
Yeah,
really
I think it's what Revel wants. I think probably what the danger is, I would say, is that. I mean, I think probably the failure here is if it just doesn't work and it just like drops down on Inda, right? Like, and Inda doesn't have a
yeah.
chance to do her ritual. Let's talk dice though. Revel, do you have something that would help you here? Defense, I guess.
Yeah.
You have a light
or
die
dueling.
there. Chaotic, you can make the devil's bargain.
Oh, this is gonna turn things on its head a little bit, but no matter what's hold on, what's the size of this mole creature?
It's very, very big. Like the claws are like the size of they're probably like the size of like a boulder, like a big rock or something.
Like are we talking about bear sized or bigger?
Oh, it's bigger than that. It's probably like the size of a big cart.
Okay. I think yeah, let's go with this anyways. I think no matter what, this is some sort of cursed creature. And well, the curse will spread to you if you get like bitten by it or scratched or what have you.
Interesting. Do you accept that, Revel?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's have some fun.
You have 2 light dice and a dark die, I think, is automatic. So go ahead and roll 2 light, 1 dark. 6 light. That's what you want. You have fully got the thing's attention, and you'll be able to do your ritual. I don't even need to roll Inda because there's no danger for you. Revel, just describe how you're keeping the creature at bay while Inda does her ritual.
Just we can't engage it directly, so we're definitely just taking advantage of its sort of like large and clumsiness. There's probably some terrain that Revel can just kind of like duck and bob and weave around. We goad it into taking a swipe and then just kind of like dance backwards out of its grasp and just keep taunting it like, come on. At one point we probably kick some dirt up in its face. It might turn to Inda at like one moment and then we just either kick something or throw some detritus in its face and it turns right back towards me to give Inda the time to buy the time to cast the ritual. Oh, you're muted, Jason.
I owe you a curse, and I think
I'm already gayest. It can't get much worse. He says.
yeah, you are.
That's
No,
all he
yeah,
has.
I might have a loose interpretation of curse here. You're already stung, correct?
Yes, I am already stung.
Okay. Give me just a moment. You will notice that as you're engaging it, its eyes have the blue lamplight glow, and it exhales a cloud of lamplight fungus spores. You have stung and lamplight eyes. Your own eyes start to take on this sort of like bluish glow. And this prompts a special rule, which we'll get to in a moment. Meanwhile, Inda, how do you deal with the mole creature with your illusion?
So I think while the distraction is going on, Inda is going to be muttering wasteful expenditure. Oh, and just like getting some lamplight, drawing a circle around herself and some old Kaldori runes, and then getting the lyre and starting to strum it to make a kind of dance of the bumblebees, kind of, and then it gets louder and louder, and this giant bee, the same size as the creature, appears to the creature and starts engaging it in a sort of, Titan-sized waggle dance where they keep moving back and forth, and then shouts, "Revel, run!"
How long is this going to last?
Hopefully long enough because the trigger was it getting to a certain distance from me. So I'm hoping maybe it kind of is roughly superimposed over where I am.
Okay,
So if
great.
we all move, it sort of moves, and that might give the others a chance to jump down the hole as well.
That's a great point. You have some options now, group. There is the tunnel that the tree connects to, but the creature has also dug a tunnel from down below, which may go somewhere different, and is also not swarming with bees. So, or maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe everything is. But in any case, you do have a couple of choices there now for going deeper into the caves. I think Sybil and Obeha, you'll be aware of this commotion. Do you run back to the group once you're done with your gathering your bones and things?
Yes.
Yeah, I follow behind Beha though.
Nil is with you as well, and Gerald. And he says, well, this is certainly getting more interesting now.
I can't believe mole creatures that size are real. What is up with this place? It seems as though everything that I've experienced is coming true once more.
You've seen this before?
No, I created a rumor about mole people before.
Okay, so if we go down deeper, what if there's more of these things?
And can everybody else see the illusion as well, or is it just for the mole creature's benefit?
I think it's more interesting. It says a predefined illusory scene, so it doesn't say it's like a hallucination. And it says because it's predefined, I'm assuming that means it won't move with us. So basically, yeah, like it's a giant bee that's probably superimposed over where I drew the circle. That's the same size as the creature, and it's like the wax mannequins is basically on a script to like challenge the creature.
Yeah. So Obeha and Sybil, you'll see the giant bee as well. But Nil will say that bee is not real.
It looks pretty real.
It's definitely not real.
Well, we should go. We should go before these things kill each other off, and one of them comes for us.
Question for you, Jason. I have the skill in illusions. Can I tell this is an illusion or
Yeah,
not?
you'll probably be able to tell as well. But Nil, yeah, in the same way that Nil can tell it's not real, you can also tell it's not real, or maybe not in the same manner, but yeah,
Mhm.
he knows it from much
It
further away though. You have to get closer before you
yeah.
realize it.
Hmm. I'll store that a little nugget of information away for later. Stay away from the mole. It seems to be fighting the giant bee, so we can go down that giant hole. We just have to book it.
Revel, you have two conditions: lamplight eyes and stung. You have to make a special risk roll. If you succeed at the risk roll, you actually gain a brand new ritual. If you fail at the risk roll, don't fail at the risk roll. How about that? Let's just say that for now.
I like that.
Let's talk about your dice. And essentially what you're trying to do is just resist. You're basically resisting your mind being taken over right now. Do you have a skill or piece of equipment that would help you in that?
Troll's blood, but that just kind of generally heals one ruin. I have defense. That could include mental.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I kind of like that. Maybe something in your backpack equipment, your open slots. You just have to stay present right now. You just cannot succumb to whatever's happening in your brain right now.
I've a shining knife that he could just like stab into his own
I'll take that. Yeah.
leg to
Yeah.
think on the pain.
I like that. So yeah, you can take that and that'll give you your first light die. I will offer the devil's bargain. No matter what, the bees will be particularly drawn to you from now on. You can reject it, but that's the offer.
I gotta take it, and I gotta get this risk roll. There's no losing it, right?
You have two light
Yeah.
dice. You don't need to take a dark die yet. Actually, no, yeah, you do, because you're having this reaction to this chemical. You're having this chemical reaction. Yeah, take a dark die as well.
Okay.
A
So
5
dark.
5 dark is high. Your ruin will go up, but you do succeed. The complication is irrelevant. You just need to succeed. Go ahead and describe how you resist. You can feel like as soon as you inhale those lamplight spores, you can, like, the sickness that the venom was doing to you is like welling up, and it's strange. You're having a strange reaction to the introduction of the lamplight fungus into your body. How do you resist whatever it's trying to do?
The world around Revel goes dark. Still is up, but eyes are just not able to see much of anything. There might be muffled voices, muffled sounds, but it's very cinematic, standing in a lone spotlight and a fog of black cloud. And as the fog gets closer and closer and starts turning into this more blue luminescent, and starts trying to breach in and spread corruption, I think one voice comes out of the din a little bit more clearly than the others. And when Revel turns, he sees the Witch of Navask. and she just says the word pain. Maybe even steps out of the cloud and like her hand starts on his shoulder and goes down his arm to his wrist and guides it to his knife, and she says pain. And Revel takes the knife out of its holster and just jabs it into his own thigh. And then in an instant, the clouds are gone, the witch is gone, everything is gone. He's back into.
Actually, I'll take it from there.
Mhm.
The witch is still there. The pain is helping you resist whatever's happening with the introduction of the lamplight fungus. But the Witch of Navask smiles, and then she opens her mouth and screams. And her scream eventually turns into buzzing, humming, as a swarm of bees comes up from her gullet. And then she's gone. But you have gained another ritual. The ritual is called Hum. It allows you to commune with an inhuman intelligence. Go ahead and note that in your rituals section, or just in your, you can type it in the library, or you can just note it however you wish. But in any case, I think the way you know you can do this, though, is because there is a bee, a kind of fist-sized bee that is crawling along your arm and shoulder, and it whispers to you. It says, "The hive is home. Take my venom and learn its secrets." And then it proffers its stinger to you. Do you let it sting you?
No. Brush it
It-
off.
It flies off. And Nil is there with a smile on his face. He says, "Are you okay, friend?"
Do we still have the lamplight eyes?
You do.
Then I think as Nil and the others run up, then yeah, Revel turns to face them and his eyes are lamplight blue, and all he just says is, "Make it worth it."
Nil smiles. His own eyes are amber, as if covered with a sheen of honey. And he says, "The bees have a way of making you see things a certain way. They reveal parts of the world that cannot normally be seen. It is a blessing."
Yeah, I've been blessed before. I think I've been blessed enough times in my life. I can deal with one less of them. Thanks.
Nil turns to the group. "We should get going."
What just happened?
I really couldn't say, Sybil. There was I made a giant bee, and
Oh, that was
something.
you.
Yes, it was a trick. It's a good distraction when people quibble over your prices. Excellent distraction. But that's beside the point. Revel's got glowing eyes, and he's hideous and puffy, and I think we should try and fix him.
Well, I've got. I'm gonna go through my pack and grab out one of the vials of Founder's Eye. It might help. I'm not really sure what's wrong with you, Revel.
I don't know if I know either, to be honest, but
Revel, how's your vision? Like, you can see fully in the dark now. What does that look like to you?
man, I think everything, again, just to kind of link it back to the witch slightly, everything has a slight tinge of green to it in lower light. She's just, it's night vision goggles. It's no. Yeah, I think the darker areas have little, like, more and more tinges of green in the darkness, and kind of everything is sort of green lit, or green filtered, uh, very much like the Matrix.
Inda, the mole creature, has taken a brave swipe at your illusion with its large, sort of beetle-like head growth, and is perplexed because it made contact with nothing. And it rears back to do it again and lunges again, and nothing happens. The mole creature is going to figure out this ruse in due time.
I think I'll shout, okay, enough talking, the caper's up, down the hall.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Which hole? The tree or the one that the creature came out of?
I think the mole hole, 'cause
Mole.
the bees obviously want us to go down that hole. I'm going to go down the hole that they weren't planning in advance.
Ah, very good.
I actually will go down the tree hole because I
Oh.
don't trust the mole hole. I know what
Hmm.
at least was in the tree. You know, it came at me. I don't know what's down the mole hole.
Split the party, nothing wrong with that. And Obeha, which are you going to go down?
Which one Revel is going down?
The
The
one
mole hole, I think. Oh.
I was, but now that Sybil's going down the tree hole, I kind of feel obligated to chase after her. So I think I'm gonna go down the tree hole.
Oh, I guess I'm going down the tree hole.
Inda, are you the only one going down the
Kinda.
mole hole now?
Yeah, I'm going down the mole hole. I don't trust that tree hole. Like I got this far by being the cautious one that hedged their bets and did, was always. And I don't trust. I'll also go wherever Neil isn't. So I'm
Well,
gonna.
Nil wants to go down
go-
the mole hole.
I don't want to end up with Neil. Can I try and distract Neil so he goes down the bee hole, and then I'll sneakily jump down the mole hole?
He says, listen, here's the thing, Inda. I don't particularly care about you or any of your companions. You are a greedy old woman, and that has no interest to me whatsoever. And there's also a fae, and there is this other woman here, and well, your friend with the blue eyes probably has a much bigger role to play in all of this. That's just between you and me, though. And I don't want to be there when that role is getting played.
I'm going to act as if I just nod and then go over to the bee hole. And when everyone else has gone down and Nil's about to go, I'm going to look at him and say, I may be a greedy old woman, but you're definitely not a person and you're a little shit. And just push him down the hole.
Down the
bee hole. I'm going to push him down
tree?
the bee hole. And I'm going to go down the mole hole.
Very good. We will come back to all of that. Let's take a 5-minute break. Sybil, Obeha, and Revel, you make your way into the giant tree, and then that leads pretty quickly into a kind of gently sloping, like kind of tunnel going down. And Nil comes stumbling in shortly behind you, rolling in. And he's kind of on his butt, and he kind of like looks back in the direction of where you all came from, and then looks at all of you, and he says, I guess you're stuck with me.
Great.
As long as you make yourself useful, we should be okay.
Interesting.
He will take up Goat. Is Goat like small? Can Goat be picked up, or Gerald be picked up? Yeah. He picks up Gerald and says, we've bonded.
What's Gerald's response?
Just no particular response.
He's just chewing
Yeah.
on nothing.
Yeah.
Do I dare use hum on Gerald? No, 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 not now.
Open the secrets of the universe doing that.
God.
Let's paint the scene here. As you're heading down this tunnel that's leading you somewhere, the tunnel that was made by the bees, that's the question. How can you tell this tunnel was made by bees?
The tunnel itself is of an hexagonal shape. It's literally, it's not like a circle or just like rough edges. Every side is very flat.
I think it's also really evident by the resonant hum that still sort of fills the tunnel. If you listen closely, you can hear it, just this really quiet buzz. And if you probably were to press your ears to the wall of the tunnel, it would sound like a horde of bees.
I might run with that even a step farther and say that some places in the wall there's a little bit of transparency, and there are buried bees or bee carcasses on the far side of it.
I think it has this like deep kind of waxen smell, like that permeates everything.
The tunnel eventually lets out into the next set. And the goal of this set, just try to clip this here. The goal of this set is to find Lucas's notes. That's it. Who is Lucas? Who knows? This is kind of an out of character thing right now. But in any case, the tunnel opens out into what appears to be like a sort of commercial district in Wellslode. It's actually very quiet down here, apart from that incessant hum. And it appears that this was sort of like a place for warehouses and factories. It doesn't look like it looks very like kind of industrial or a place where you would go work. It doesn't look like people lived here. The air is going very, very stale here. And also, your torchlight is starting to dim. You cannot see very well down here. Except for Revel. Revel, you can see perfectly down here in your strange way. And anyone who quaffs their lamplight fungus from the little tin of lamplight fungus can also see as well.
I think I'm gonna take some of my fungus from my. I don't know if I have enough to really make this, because mine was the one that was also ravaged by the bear. So
Right.
I'm
You
going
had
to
kind of like a half amount. Yeah.
yeah. It's probably got like bits of bear hair in it and such. But
it'll
For
it'll last
mine,
you for a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, I'll use it.
Yeah.
I'll give her mine. Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because you have a whole tin, that you don't need anymore. Obeha, are you going to take the lamplight?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend that we douse our torches because the further we're going to go down, the air will become thinner and we don't need any unnecessary things like that.
Burning away the oxygen.
Mhm.
We'll come back to this. Inda, you said you were going down the burrowers, the diggers hole.
Yeah, that's right.
The digger actually leads you to the hole. Eventually leads. Well, let's just say that the path it's rough. It's not as easy to traverse as what the others are going through, because it's not smooth walled and sided. And so you have to kind of take it kind of careful so you don't twist your ankle or anything like that. But it is relatively bee free. An occasional small bee buzzes by, but otherwise it's fairly safe as far as that goes. You're eventually kind of hooked up to a series of aqueducts. And those aqueducts, as you slosh around in them, sort of waist deep water, eventually lead to what appears to be like an amphitheater. And this has a goal. The set goal here find the keys to the city. What does that mean? No idea. You can spend 3 tokens and find out, or discover them as you wish. But this amphitheater is interesting. All the seats in the amphitheater in the round have been converted to open-topped cells in which wriggling bee larvae can be found. And in the center of the amphitheater, there are people wearing robes wreathed in smoke, and they have woven circular masks over their faces. And they're standing around one of these waxy cells and lowering another person into the wax. Let's go back to the other group. So you're in this kind of commercial district of Wellslode. Let's just find out what everyone's doing. Sybil?
Well, if there's no immediate threat, I would like to take a peek into the nearest warehouse or building just to see what sort of things they were making or selling here.
Yeah, you can make a hunt roll. Obeha, what are you doing?
I'm keeping an eye on Revel.
Very interesting.
It's very interesting to see his eyes glow like that.
All of you have glowing eyes right now because of the lamplight
Mhm.
fungus.
Yes, but he was glowing beforehand.
I will tell you, his condition is a little different. You can see that the lamplight is starting to interact with the swollen skin from the bee stings. And The swelling is starting to have a sort of greenish blue undulating glow to it. Revel is a sort of walking light source in a way. Revel, what are you doing right now?
Ex- Exploring our newfound power, the eyes, not the ritual. Similarly, I think we are going to look in this warehouse that Sybil has kind of singled out. But we don't really want to be alone right now.
Mhm.
Sybil, what was your hunt roll?
A 3.
A 3. In one of the factories, you can hear crying, like people crying, weeping. You're able to poke your head into a window, and it's a sort of half collapsed building. At the center of it, there's a lot of bee activity. The bees are carrying plants through the sort of missing portion, the collapsed portion of the building. They're carrying plants and root and cane and other things into the building. And there's a number of people, humans, being forced to chew on the fibrous plant stalk. And as they chew, they then spit what they chew, and the bees gather up the fibrous spit and carry it off. Many of the people have swollen limbs. They've clearly been stung many, many times. And they're just crying and weeping. Whenever they stop chewing, the bees like descend on them and force them to keep going. And so they have to go back to it. And then they have to spit. And the bees collect up the spit and fly off or carry it away. One of them tries to stop and run, and the bees are just on top of him and drag him back. And they use their little hands to force open the mouth, and they shove more plant material in there, and he continues chewing.
Revel, are you seeing this?
Yeah, we
We-
need to make a distraction, don't we?
From my view at this window, I mean, I imagine there's a lot going on. It's probably pretty dark. Can I tell what kind of plants these are? Being a person with a skill in plants.
Yeah, it's a variety of things. I think they're mostly just interested in like the pulpy saliva that is produced. Yeah.
They're almost treating them like bees. Isn't this like how they make honey? They chew up stuff and spit it out.
Mhm.
They can make their own bees. They don't need people to do it.
Maybe it's just habit.
Well, we've gotta stop
Yeah.
it, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that the
Yeah.
right thing to do? You're better at this. Isn't that the right thing to do?
Listen, my hero days are way in my past, but
Are the bees bees, or have they always been like this?
Well, these aren't just regular bees. These these are these are bees that are subjects of the mother of millions. That is a whole different thing than regular bees.
Nil says, just a small factoid. All bees are children of the mother of millions, and all bees are part of one single bee-based kingdom, from the lowest furry little bumblebee to our large dog-sized friends up top to these very dedicated specimens here engaged in whatever this industry is that they're engaged in. I happen to know a lot about bees, and I even find this to be rather strange behavior.
Okay. I wonder if the previous mother of millions died, and this is someone else is in charge. They can't make new bees, at least not directly from their new leader.
Well, then wouldn't they just die out? If they can't make new bees, then no more bees.
Like, sort of it's you know that people, like, beekeeping is a profession, right? They don't have to harvest bees from the wild. They have their own hive and their own little bee queen, but that bee queen comes from the mother of millions.
Are you suggesting that these bees are beekeeping the people here?
Yes.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Well, then how does a person destroy a beehive? We know
Fire.
fireworks.
Yeah.
At this point, you see a bee the size of a small pony approaching
Oh.
you. It is, yeah, it's very, very large. It actually shoots its stinger at you. The stinger flies like a crossbow bolt and pierces a wall next to you. And it actually like reloads. You see another stinger sort of squeeze out and appear. And then Nil says, "That is not a bee." Let's cut over to Inda. Inda, you're in this amphitheater where there's some sort of strange ritual going on. A bunch of people dressed like beekeepers down there, or sort of culty beekeepers. But they have braziers lit. They have smoke. You can see pretty well. What do you do?
So I think Inda is thinking that what she really wants out of all this, the whole thing with the finding out what happened to the village, is like a pretext, but she wants the big score. She wants like enough information to come back and come back with the big payday basically. And there's the knowledge here to really get enough intel to trade on good terms. But first, she needs protection and disguise. So she's going to try and sneak around and get hold of a beekeeping outfit of her own. And then she's going to try and find out as much as she can about what's going on without being detected.
Oh, interesting. Are you do you have like your own beekeeping outfit?
I don't, but I would like to find a stray cultist and
Oh, I see. Very good.
divest them of their beekeeping outfit.
Yeah, I like that. I think you'll see I think you'll see one of these like cultists kind of looking at the wax cells, where there are larvae, and kind of like checking on them and looking at them and walking amongst because these are on like the bench seats of the amphitheater. And so he's kind of isolated from the rest of the group. What do you do?
I so basically I have a sewing kit and I have numbing herbs. So I'm going to get one of the needles from my sewing kit, the big one, and I'm going to cover it in numbing herbs, and then I'm going to go right up behind them and stick it in their neck.
That's a risk roll. Everyone can say what they think could go wrong here. If Inda fails.
You get caught and it's an outright fight with everyone involved.
Not only do you get caught and it's an outright fight, you accidentally poke yourself with the needle and numbing herbs.
I like that.
Yeah. I was gonna say the numbing herbs don't work, but that's
You don't have a thimble in your sewing kit.
I love it. Okay, let's talk dice. Do you have a skill here that's going to be helpful? You do have. Oh, I think the equipment though. Well, I think we'll give you the light die.
I also have improvisation, which is extremely relevant.
You have one light die. Everyone can make a devil's bargain.
Oh, I have a terrible, terrible idea. No matter what, the people in the beekeeping suits are effectively hives for other bees.
I'm going to say no matter what. No matter what, you are going to actually come back to me. I want to keep thinking about how I want to phrase this.
No matter what, you recognize some of the people in the auditorium as those who would help be responsible to earn back your family name.
Intriguing.
Lawyers or whatever.
I like that. There's like people they're like society people, like who are here. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty close to what I was thinking of. Do you have an offer? Rebel?
I'll say no matter what, in this process, your jar of lamplight fungus somehow gets dislodged or falls out and breaks and becomes useless. So if you do go deeper, if light does go away, that will know.
Okay, I've got a new one. No matter what, you discover that the larvae are babies. Like human babies, not bee babies.
Yeah. I tend to go for a sort of harm to children line, so I think I'll probably avoid that one for that reason on terms of roaming lines and veils. But I do really like the idea that that I don't know, I quite like the idea that that it's actually the kind of people I need to impress. Maybe there's I'd like the idea of it being an intrigue that there's somehow there are people that can help me with my drive.
I like it. You have 2 light dice. I don't need a dark die yet because you have the element of surprise here. So go ahead and roll.
Okay, let's do it. Oh, I got a 3. So
That's a fail. You can add a dark die to try for a success.
I'm absolutely going to add a dark die. I have to. Oh, I'm going to take that. A 4 is good enough in this circumstance, I think.
The complication is going to be, I think you just run out of your numbing herbs, but otherwise you're able to get your costume. What does it look like? Just give us that scene.
So Inda, kind of, who's surprisingly quick on her feet for a lady of in the her late 60s, just sort of, carefully rubs the needle back and forth in the herbs, daubs it in a sort of sticky paste, and then just sneaks up as this cultist is looking and inspecting the larvae, and just very carefully just jabs them, and they just go rigid and just fall over like poleaxed. And she just drags them into the shadows and pulls off the clothes, and then puts on all the outfit, and then continues the same routine that she observed the cultists doing while trying to get closer to see what's going on.
Good. Let's go back to the other group. This large pony-sized bee that Nil says is not a bee is it has fired a javelin-like stinger at you, and it is also rushing toward you. This is a combat. Please say how you are vulnerable and roll a weak point. It's only endurance 8, so not the end of the world as far as fights go.
It's got a ranged weapon and Revel's at distance and has to close it.
Indeed.
Same, but also Sybil's not a great fighter.
Fair enough. Revel has a 2, Sybil has a 1. Beha?
I think I'm just extremely paranoid about like everything that's been going on. It seems as though Revel is turning into something else. Nil is way too knowledgeable about what's going on, so like he may be working with the bees. And well, I don't know what Sybil's planning, because Sybil's an agent of chaos, and I'm just by myself on this one.
Indeed. What's your weak point?
It is a 5.
2, a 1, and a 5. It is a combat 3 to start. Revel, you can roll it. Looking for 8. 3, 3, and 1. 3 and 3 is 6. That is not enough, but the 1 does hit Sybil's weak point. Sybil, you take a actually, I think I know what's going to happen. I'll handle the attack of the bee, but everybody else just describe how the fight starts. And you're rolling it.
As this pony-sized bee comes flying towards us, I assume flying. Can it fly? Yes, it's flying. It's scary. Right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, it will take wing as it gets closer to you.
Yeah. And with its brand new grown stinger, sort of shiny in the light, looking very pointy and frightening. I take out my hand sickle, and it's so much smaller than even the point on this bee's stinger, and it feels just tiny in my hands. So double-handing it, stepping kind of behind Revel, who's got an actual sword.
As you grab onto that stinger, you will notice that it has a little bit of give. It's made of wax. Revel, how does your first move here go?
So yeah, we break out of our little hidey hole cover, and there's not a whole lot of grace to it. Revel runs at it, and I think it takes wing just as Revel gets close enough to make a swing at it and goes up and over. And now Revel is left underneath it.
Obeha.
I leap to the ground and just like try to like take cover as like I'm just crawling on the ground as like this creature tries to fire like at like person height, and I think I just miss a couple of stinger crossbow bolts.
The bee swoops down on Sybil, who took the hit, right? Sybil, the hit was yours, yeah. It swoops down on Sybil, and Sybil, the sort of underside of its body is soft, warm wax. It just descends and like gathers you up into the wax. And very rapidly, you all just see Sybil like get sucked into the wax. And you see Sybil's face behind the cloudy wax. Sybil's out of the combat. You have to give your weak point to one of your fellow treasure hunters. Sybil, who are you giving it to?
I think because I was hiding behind Revel, I'm going to give it to Revel.
Revel, your weak point is now 2 and 1. We're at combat
Sorry,
4.
Revel.
Caddick, go ahead and roll combat 4.
Jeez.
4, 4, 5, and 2. Revel, you take a hit, and so do you, Chaotic,
Oh,
or Obeah,
yeah.
rather. But you do defeat the bee, so that's good.
Well, I will soak it with my armor.
Sure.
Yeah.
Obeah, kick off the combat. What does it look like?
I think as I see the wax consume Sybil, I realize, oh, this is a construct like the other constructs we've seen. And I need to just get on this bee to try to dismantle it because I have the scarecrow ritual. And I shout, get to Revel, I need to touch it. I need to grab hold of it. And I start running towards it.
Revel, you get the killing blow on the thing. What does it look like?
Well, I think we hear Obeah, and rather than try and continue to fight this thing in melee, we drop our sword and make the little basket with our hands. So when Obeah comes up to us, we are able to launch them up to the bee to where they can tear it to pieces.
And you're both taking a hit, or at least getting your armor hit. What does that look like?
I think. Go ahead.
You go.
Yes. Okay. I think as I'm on this bee, it's trying to consume me as well, and like it has my cloak on it, and I just undo my cloak, and the cloak just gets sucked into the wax.
Nice, good. What about you, Revel?
My hit occurs before, because I have to stand still while Obeah makes her running dash. It just hits us with a crossbow stinger and bounces off the armor, but piece of scale mail just goes ding-ling-ling down in the room that we're in.
Obeah, what's it like when this thing is finally destroyed?
Like it sort of just flops onto the ground and is like slowly melting away. But however, there is so much wax that as like it sort of deforms, the wax actually starts to harden again to like this sort of in this sort of semi-solid state. So it's like enough that you can squish through, but it's still like a solid.
I love it. And Sybil, you are sloughing out of the wax, or the wax is sloughing off of you. You're crawling out of it. Let's see if there was anything inside the bee worth anything. Go ahead and roll 8, or a gold 8, please. Nothing. It's just a big pile of wax now. Nil will casually walk up to the group and say, "That was very impressive. I should tell you all, there are no bees here." Referring to the ones inside the factory.
Then what's going on?
Yes.
So I'm pulling wax out of my hair and out of my
Yeah.
nose.
Yeah. Let's cut over to Inda. Inda, you can see what they're doing as you get closer. They are dipping people willingly into wax cells. And you can see inside the cell that the person is transforming. You can see their skin puffing and changing, their limbs elongating in strange ways. Yeah, the wax is doing something to them. And these sort of beekeeper cultists, they're sort of muttering to themselves, like with approval and pleasure, as they watch this transformation take place. What do you do?
Can I try and get close enough to eavesdrop on them?
Indeed. You hear them. They say, very soon, we will have an army capable of striking back against the pretender. And then one of them turns and says, I hear her. I hear her even now. And you will hear what they're hearing. It is the sound of a scream that transforms into the buzzing, droning hum of bees from somewhere deeper down below in Wellslode. And we'll end the session there today. Let's do stars and wishes. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
Stars for all of you. I'm kind of not on top of my game right now, and it didn't feel like I was pulling everyone down so hard because you're all just really wonderful players, and I really appreciate that for not making me feel bad or keeping the story going, which is really, the most important thing. So big stars for everybody. James, and a special star for you for mentioning the roaming lines and veils. Sometimes it's hard to bring those out, but it's really important to do that when they're important. So thank you for that. I really love all the reactions that everybody was giving from their characters today. The stuff that was happening was just, a lot of it was unexpected, some of it was chaos, and I think everybody had really on point character reactions, with Inda trying to do some trading. We had Obeha with the everything is spooky, oh no, I know what's going on here, it's something spooky, nothing practical ever, it's always something strange, and that's how they sort of see the world, the lens that they see the world in. I think that's very appropriate, and you played into that a lot. Rebel's descent into weirdness is just so wonderful to watch. I want to see Rebel get weirder and weirder and weirder, because yeah, it's really great, starting off as sort of a more standard type errant knight, and right now I don't even know what you are, but it's great. Jason, as always, wonderful moments of description, wonderful moments of tension. I'll never get over that bee growing another stinger. That's embedded in my brain forever now, and I'm going to be afraid of bees doing that, and I've never been afraid of bees, so thank you.
It was just reloading, so.
Yeah.
Oh, I see the arbalest joke. It is an arbalest. That's what it's called in the incursion. It's called a wax arbalest bee. So yeah.
I just wanted to make a bee pun, that's all. Stars for me, Jason, the cliffhangers just one after another. It's like every scene just ending like like you would a commercial break in a TV show. It was and the way you would end a chapter in a big giant page turning novel, absolutely fantastic. Obeha being what we would consider strange and finding things strange is always fun. The sort of dichotomy that I think Revel is going through from being around all of these strange folks and now he is the strange one. The moment with the Witch of Navask was really fun. Inda is just a gremlin and I'm here for everything she does, with the picnic family to dealing with the giant mole. Absolutely fantastic. And Sybil getting scooped up by the bee. The whole combat there was very fun.
This has just been a spooky session. Like, yeah, it's very fascinating to see how, like, I've played this character for a while now, to just see like certain patterns within the world of Trophy come up and again, and I'm really fascinated by that, especially with this whole transformation with Revel dealing with this particular incursion about like being forever changed into something that may not be exactly human. Like Abeha relates strongly to that, so I want to see what Revel turns into, because, well, who knows what it'll be at the end of the day. And being the most inconvenient for every NPC we meet, especially Nil. Like, you've poisoned him, you've pushed him down a hole, you've sold Orphis perfume. It's just been the bane of NPCs. Sybil, it's always fun to see what sort of shenanigans you get into, of like, oh yeah, we're gonna climb into this tree and down a bee hole. That's just been fun. And it's very interesting to see like these two sets at the same time, just of like, oh, this is where they make the bees, and oh yeah, this is where we're having the equivalent of a human hive, and it's like, oh no, this is gross, and I love it.
My stars, this session had a really interesting and good sense of the treasure hunters stumbling into the middle of something. There's this sense of like, the world is doing something right now. There's something going on and you are all not really privy to it. You're just here in the middle of it. And I kind of really love that, because it really has that feeling of like a world that's alive and doing its own thing, that is not just, I mean, it's not necessarily like waiting for things to happen in the campaign, right? It's just doing its own thing. And it really had that feeling of it, like you all are just, you've stumbled into the middle of like something, and maybe you don't quite know exactly what's going on, but like you're in the middle of it, you have a job to do, and so it's really fun. I also really enjoyed the interplay today between Devil's Bargains and how the story went. So the tree thing was super interesting because that's not written into the incursion, right? Like so that originally came from James playing off of the Trophy Dark campaign, or the Trophy Dark series of the screaming face with the bees. And I sort of reinterpreted that to be like almost like a like a knot in the tree, looking like a face, and then the bees having just hollowed out the tree, right? Like, so that was like, it was my way of like kind of interpreting James's contribution with Devil's Bargain. And then it went further because Revel looked into the tree to see like what was going on there. And so it occurred to me, as like, oh, well, maybe, and specifically to see if like it goes down deeper, which is what your set goal was, right? I had not considered that, but it was a great idea. So I rolled with it, right? So that was a really interesting, like the way the rules kind of like intersected, like was really fun. It was fun to see just how the mechanics and the rules intersected with the tree, and how that all kind of came together. It was really enjoyable. There were some good combats. Well, the one combat was really good. The one was short but actually pretty amusing. Just like Obey had just like clubbing a couple of bees to death. Like that was pretty funny. I had a good time. I very happy and excited to see how this wraps up. What choices you're all going to make. Will you be forced to make choices because some of you are at Rune 5, or will you be able to, like, will you have to abandon this? Will you have to, what sacrifices will you make to go deeper? These are all questions that are really interesting, and I'll be excited to see how they all resolve themselves. I'm also very curious to see what Nil's deal is and how his story ends here. I think it's pretty obvious at this point that Nil is trying to find this supposed pretender deep below, right? And so that's all really good stuff and fun.
I think my star is that kind of feels like a Trophy Dark game, but at the same time with all the sort of trappings of Trophy Gold. But at the same time, like Jason said, if we get our burdens, we might just have to run away. But at the same time, Inda's basically going for the payoff. But at some point in the next session, I'm going to have to figure out if Inda's a bad person or not, and if she's going to, like it's an interesting kind of thing about because in Trophy Dark, you're going to keep leaning in. But I'm just curious to see we're going to end up in a pretty awkward, tenuous situation next session, and I'm just interested to see how it plays out, given that it feels a bit like we're in a kind of funnel, but we're not really. So. And I think everyone's really settled in nicely and developed their characters and made a lot of progress. And it feels very rich in the same way that Trophy Dark encourages you to constantly be hammering your drives. Everyone's doing that. And it's not always the case in Trophy Gold that happens. And it's just been very exciting for that reason.
Any other stars wishes?
I love all of the references. I did get a chance to watch the Sister Incursion, and just watching the references pop back is just such a delightful joy. It makes the world feel strangely bigger when sometimes references can make the world smaller, but I like what's been going on with this so far.
Yeah, the references to two of the characters are significantly smaller than or significantly bigger than the others. Like two of the characters are figuring really, really prominently in the story of this. And the other two characters are there, like their experiences are wrapped up in this, but in much more like subtle ways, and I think that's the right balance. Because for people who watch the Trophy Dark one, the core conflict of the Trophy Dark one is kind of playing itself out again right now, but like on this more like cosmic scale, which I think is really fun. So it's good stuff.
Also, I gotta give the star for the mole creature.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it's a part of this incursion or it's just something.
Yeah, it just happenstance. Yeah, it's in the incursion.
I can't believe we're having mole men be a thing.
I mean, I mean, to be fair, it's more of a mole than mole man, but I take your point. It's a good reference. It's a good callback for your character for sure, for people who have followed Obeha. Any other stars or wishes? Okay, well, that was great fun. I'm going to go ahead and wave goodbye and stop the recording.